Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma and Zach Celadonia.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Joe Kuzma, and joining me by my side for a little bit of Monday morning quarterbacking is one Zach Flash Celadonia. What's going on, my friend, on this Victory Monday?
Yeah, Victory Monday. It is, I guess. I feel pretty good, I think. I feel good.
Yeah, isn't that the weirdest thing? Like, that's the way I feel. I am exhausted. And as you know, I was at the game, and I was just describing to you, like, the change in weather was the way of the change in the ebb and the flow of this game, too. It was, like, overcast, and then it would rain, and the sun came out. And if you've ever been in the stands, and you're trying to put on a rain poncho, and then the sun comes out, like, and it cooks you, I can only imagine those guys, like, that dropping like flies. Cincinnati Bengals run, it said 94 total plays, but 100 total snaps. So I think, like, some of the penalty plays that don't count are factored into that. 100 snaps of offense. Like, holy cow. Then that's for the Steelers defense, obviously, too, that has to be out there. And you wonder why people are dropping like flies, and the injuries that we'll talk about. I mean, that's what makes a win not feel like a win. And in particular, a whole lot of other ways. I think the best way to describe what this game came down to here as we go through it, a 23-20 Steelers win in overtime, the final seconds at Cincinnati at their newly poorly named stadium, Paycor Stadium. Bill Hillgrove. Parkour. Bill Hillgrove on the Steelers call. I must have said it, and I'm going to butcher the paraphrase, but anybody that heard it, he said something to the effect of, like, the Steelers win. I don't know how they've won. It would take me an hour to tell you how to explain it, but they win like 23-20 or whatever, as he's trying to, stumble through his words after the field goal. And wow. And I'm going to try.
Works for us because we're an hour-long show, so we're going to try our best to put that theory to the test right now.
Man, let me tell you, it was the game that would never end. I'm not even sure where to begin with this thing. I mean, to come out with a win, AFC North, a conference victory, division victory, both positives, especially when you have the Ravens and the Browns win yesterday as well. We already saw a tweet. Mark Cabali's way ahead of it. Week 1, the Steelers would be ahead, number 1 in the AFC. They would win the AFC North, even though like 3 teams are 1-0. Pretty silly stuff. We've got 16 more to go. And that's like where a lot of like my gut feeling comes from. And we were talking about this all last week. You, me, Brian, we're like, do we feel better about the Steelers and their kind of perspective outlook on this season? And I'm still going to say yes, but there's a lot of bad in this game where the Steelers, the good is they force 5 turnovers on defense, right? They do a lot of good things on defense. They get some 3 and outs when they need it. They force field goals when they needed it. But it also went to overtime, and it almost didn't make it to overtime if it wasn't for an injured long snapper from the Cincinnati Bengals. Which, how many times did we talk about Derek Watt and some of these other guys? Special teams matters, folks. Special teams wins games. That goes back to my high school football coaches. Special teams wins games. Like
Benny Snell lay a big hit on one team, I think it was, and that kind of put an exclamation point on why he was on the roster still. In fact, I was at my buddy's house. He was hosting us for the game, and he had told me that he was just explaining that to his little brother like last week, who was asking and arguing, why is Benny Snell still on the team? My buddy told him for special teams. And as you know, we both are believers in that, and as to why Benny Snell is still on the team. So he and I shared a good high five after that play. And his brother was there too. And we were like, see, that's why Benny Snell is here. We're not like the hugest Benny Snell fans in the world. We're not leading any fan clubs here, but it's a very real value if you're a good special teams player.
Hey, and it's tough. I want to try and go through some play-by-plays, but there's, like I said, there's like 100 of them just on one side of the football. And the Steelers barely ran like 60 offensive plays. And that's where a lot of it's going to come from. I've had some private messages actually already curious to hear your thoughts on Mitchell Trubisky in this game. And it's like, I'm gonna sound so negative because it's like it's the same thing that I was expecting to have happen. And I'm gonna preface it by saying, didn't turn the ball over, got lucky on a couple of them, could have been strip sacked from behind, had a bad pass across the middle that was pretty much dropped for an INT.
Dude, that almost strip sack my whole life flashed before my eyes when he had the ball down by his knee pads and Hendrickson is
So
closing in
loose.
like a heat-seeking missile. I was like, the ball, cover the ball, and Hendrickson just missed swiping at that. Although it was a good first down, and I've been trying since the game ended to collect my thoughts, man. I'm very conflicted, much like the trendy jeans I like to wear nowadays. I'm torn in between these two choices because I'm a known start Kenny guy. I've been team start Pickett since I believed he showed that he can in the preseason and through training camp. I'm a big believer in we should start Kenny Pickett when he's ready, which is what he showed. And at the same time, I don't want to overreact to week one. Mitch did do enough to win the game. The offense looked bad in the first half, looked bad for a lot of the game, but he did enough to win the game. And that's where I think it comes down to a person by person and opinion by opinion case. Are you of the side that's okay with continuing to let Mitch have the job as long as we can win the games, even though it's going to be ugly, and as long as he's doing just enough to get by? Are you comfortable with that? Personally, after week one, I guess I am. We won the game. I'm not going to say there are some people who are already calling for it. They're like, get him out of there, get Kenny in there. He'll provide more on offense. I can reason with those people, and I think there were certain moments in the game yesterday where Kenny could have done something a little bit more, but I can't sit here and act like Mitch didn't do enough to win the game. And in crunch time, and I'm talking the last like 20 seconds of the game when we had the free play, he could have taken off for an easy first down, and instead he was aware enough to find Freiermuth down the field and make what was probably definitely the best play of the game from him.
Absolutely.
And if he wouldn't have shown that, if he wouldn't have made that read and decided to make that play, maybe I would feel a little bit more with the people who were saying, all right, I've seen enough, let's put Kenny in now. But those closing seconds for Trubisky, I think, were a really good showing from him in a very small vacuum, I'll admit, but just enough for him to hold on to the job for a little bit longer. I personally am not calling for his head, but I can see why some people are ready to move on already. The offense didn't look good outside of a couple handful of plays.
No, I'm totally with you. Second half in particular, really bad. We're going to go through, and I'm going to go through all of it. Going to go through some of the possessions, go through some of the individual accolades and whatnot. But I'm pulling up some statistics on Mitchell Trubisky, and of course, people are like, okay, well, take the positive here. What's the positive? What's the positive? There's not a whole lot of positive. I hate to say it. I mean, when you take a look at his individual statistics, this is pretty much the deal that I pulled up with his the 3 different blocks of 3 games as last year starting in Chicago. You got 7 of 10, 70% completion. That where there was a shovel pass that was in the middle of that, by the way, 77 yards and a touchdown. I mean, that, and that's pretty much all in the first quarter as well, believe it or not. The second half was 7 of 15, 46.6% completed for 36 yards. And the run game was bad, and there's going to be a lot of people are going to say, well, it's just the offensive line. And I'm like, well, the quarterback can help maybe aid that too. I've even seen people go as far, believe this or not, Zach, to say that if Ben played in that game, the Steelers lose. And I'm like, I don't think so, like necessarily. I think Ben has a better hurry up, no huddle offense, which the Steelers, they came out the gate with that. And I'm like, please don't do this. The defense is going to die. They're going to be dead tired. Like if you go 3 and out and you're only out there for like 40 seconds, like a total of time. And then of course, the overtime statistics, 7 of 13. So pretty close to, he's sub 60%, 81 yards, the big chunk play. I hate saying it this way, bailed out. Like part of the statistics here, of course, and in the final of this, you had a big catch and run by Zach Gentry, on one of the plays they set up for him. I think it was maybe even like a play action, which people were saying, why not more play action? It's like, how are you going to have more play action when you're not running the football? 2.3 yards average from both Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren. But just looking at that overtime statistic, if Deontay Johnson doesn't make like the Air Jordan logo catch of the century, that 7 of 13, 53.8, 81 yards. I mean, this game's pretty much it could be over. And you gotta look at some other factors here. Obviously, the offensive line, he's under some duress. There was nearly a safety at one point where he's lucky. Freiermuth, nobody blocked. I believe it was Sam Hubbard came through on that one. Nobody blocked him.
Him or Hendrickson. I don't know. One of the two big ones.
Hendrickson was the one chasing for sure on the one where it was almost the strip sack from behind. Yeah. And I get it. Mitch can run. He can move more than Ben. But people would like hit Ben and bounce off of him like Teflon. Like, you know what I mean? It was a hard dude to bring down. So there's a little difference there. I know maybe his arm strength wasn't as great as we would like to have seen, but I think some of the sideline passes that were missed, overthrown, the timing's off. Those are things where now we're maybe nitpicking to a certain degree because he still is new to this entire system, new to all of his teammates, and he hasn't maybe built that full rapport just yet. And that's something that comes with time and playing in these regular season games. So we'll see if that improves because, like we said, first couple weeks of football are usually pretty sloppy, extension of the preseason and things of that nature. It troubles me because, like you said, if he hadn't shown that throw to Freiermuth that ends up setting up the eventual Boswell game-winning field goal, you've got a flea flicker, a short pass catch and run from Zach Gentry, and then another short pass in the flat, probably by design to Najee Harris for the touchdown. And then what else do you have? You have a couple passes, Deontay Johnson. You got another one where Chase Claypool snags it with one hand and hauls it in somehow, like down, but that leads into that. And you got a pass interference call on a ball.
Chase played well.
Yeah, Chase looking like Deebo Samuel out there. I'm liking the usage on the jet sweeps. He actually led the team in rushing as well.
That's a wild stat. That's going to be a good trivia question like 10 weeks from now. Who led the Steelers in rushing after 1 week of play? Chase Claypool.
Yeah, 6 for 36. Najee was 10 for 23. Trubisky 3 for 9. I think Trubisky got a little too happy with his feet at times. And, that's the way some of the quarterbacks are, though. Like when he's had to run for his life, and that's kind of ingrained into his game. You can't get away with that. That's what I mean.
I think it's too hard right now to have a knee-jerk reaction. And again, I'm for team start Pickett, but It's 1 week and we won the game. And I think you're splitting hairs when you get into the and it's funny because I heard that this morning actually on a different podcast that the one guy said, I believe that, Mitch did better than Ben would have with the game week 1. And I think you're splitting hairs with that because what did we get from Ben these past 2 years really? And it was like you'd get a handful of good plays throughout the game and pull your hair out for the rest of it. And occasionally he would shine through like old Ben. I think that's pretty much what Mitch did yesterday. It was a lot of hair pulling, and then there was like a handful of good plays that he made. So I think you're splitting hairs saying that one guy definitively would have lost the game over the other. I think Mitch gave us like as a pretty close to a 2020, 2021 Ben Roethlisberger performance. I think that's what Mitch gave us yesterday, but a younger, like more mobile version. And because we won the game and because of that heads up play to Freiermuth, I think that's enough for him to hold on to the job for a couple more weeks. But the seat's hot. The seat is hot because let's just be honest. Everybody should be honest. The offense was anemic for a majority of the game, if not all of it. And I'm not ready to strap in for another 16 games of that with begging, pleading for the defense to come through for us, especially now with the obvious injury to TJ Watt. Like, we need more from the offense. You need more.
I'm glad you brought that up, the injury with TJ Watt, and it kind of goes over to you cannot expect the defense to force 5 turnovers. You can't expect the offense to not put the ball on the ground, a fumble, an interception. Those things are going to happen in the game. I mean, Trubisky's usually been pretty good at protecting the football overall for the most part. I know he takes some sacks that he probably shouldn't. It's probably because he starts moving around or getting a little jumpy. To me, it looked like once he had his first read, it was like, get out of Dodge, especially in that second half. Like the first half, that first drive, and I still think Deontay Johnson got screwed. How does the NFL not have the cameras up and down the sidelines, these critical angles that are necessary? You got to have one from the sticks from like both sides. It drives me crazy. They should have like 8K or 80K like technology. They should have the stuff that's on the spaceship, dude.
It's funny how Jamar Chase's touchdown was just like that. Like Jamar Chase's touchdown that Zach Taylor, well, actually he had two like that. The one they counted and the one they didn't on the other side of the field. The one where everybody wanted Zach Taylor to challenge because they were certain it was a touchdown. Deontay did the same freaking thing, man. He threw the ball over with his hand and got it across. That first down marker and the end zone pylon, they go around the earth, which means as long as you get that ball across, like in the field of play, even if like it ends up out, it's hard to explain, but that was a first down, just like Jamar Chase had a touchdown.
Yeah.
And Taylor didn't challenge, and Tomlin challenged and lost the challenge. And everybody's clowning on Tomlin for losing a challenge 4 minutes in. I thought it was a rightful call. I thought he should have thrown the flag because it looked like a first down.
Yeah, not only that, like the play clock's going, they're not stopping for him or anything like that. So he's going to have to call a timeout. And if you're going to call a timeout, just throw the flag anyway. If you lose it, then you're just using a time. It's the same as using a timeout. So I had no problem with that. And I thought that was smart in enemy territory on that first drive. They're forcing you to take the ball first. That was part of like my whole thinking was the Bengals were getting the ball to start the second half, and I'm like, just don't let them score, don't let them have points. I was joking with some of the Bengals fans like around me. I'm like, we're only allowed to have one. What can we have one first down per quarter? And that's the way it felt like. Like for these drives weren't much different than some of the garbage we saw last year. And yes, okay, offensive line. I thought offensive line they gave Mitch enough time, I think, in some cases. They had no push in the run game, but I still want to respect the Cincinnati defense and say they might have played a very, 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 very good defense, and that's another reason why we're being a lot harder. We might not see the same kind of defensive effort in the next, couple weeks, like Patriots or something like that, Jets. We'll see what ends up happening with those. But 3 plays, 9 yards, 3 plays, 5 yards, both punts. The 5 plays for 32 with the field goal. This is all, by the way, after we're talking about things that we can't count on happening all the time. And that would be Minka Fitzpatrick, pick 6, which, the first throw that Joe Burrow has right out the gun, man, the first bullet, because he tried to draw. He had the thing cocked and he gets sacked on the first attempt to drop back the pass. And then on the second one, just bang, like 30, maybe 31 yards. And I'm going to go through some of the plays here and we'll go through it. But the best drive by far, 7 plays, 57 yards with the touchdown. There was that pass interference. It looked like there was like some hand fighting. You kind of had it both ways where they called some and they didn't call some. And it wasn't necessarily the most consistent thing. They gave both teams, though, got their chances. They got an extra set of chances, an extra set of new downs. And like I said, I'm not going to complain about it, but it looked like hand fighting to me, and it looked like a ball that George Pickens probably had no business catching to begin with. But was he fouled? Yeah, he was fouled. So there goes the flag. I mean, you can't deny that to a certain degree. So 7 for 57, and they do get the touchdown. 3 for 6 with the punt. They go into halftime, so I'm not going to count that one whatsoever. 6 for 7 with a punt. 6 for 23 with a punt. 7 for 15 with a field goal, 4 for 17 punt, 3 for 2 with a punt, end of half, 3 for 7 punt in overtime. Then you got 6 for 43, of course, a missed field goal, and then the game winner after 8 for 45. So, very, very, there's a lot of 3, play drives there, and I understand Burrow turned the ball over. Now, I believe, single game career record for him, 4 interceptions, which could have been 5. They actually took the one back that was involving, I believe, Alex Highsmith, who was a beast we've been talking about forever, and Cam Hayward. And I think they ruled that more of like a fumble. But the Bengals, other than that, let's see, 1, 2, they only had 3 possessions where they were basically 3 and out in the entire day. And then they had like the 5 for 5 and they ended up punting. And again, injured long snapper, that changes their whole direction. If everybody remembers Sean Sweesham attempting that trick play up in Cleveland last year, and then the Steelers had to go for 2 all the time.
Or Boswell.
What did I say? Oh, I said Sean Sweesham, didn't I? Wow. Okay. Blast from the past. I'm sorry. Chris Boswell. Yeah, same thing would have happened, though. I think Sweesham's actually a little bit smaller than Boswell, if I'm not mistaken. And
yeah, he definitely is.
Clearly not the leg. Like, you're not making a 53-yarder, I think, Sean, and whatever. There was a lot of wind in the one corner of that end zone. They were kicking in and things like that, and we'll be talking about that a little bit, too. So, man, that's just I'm exhausted. It was rain. It was sun. I got sunburn on my head from over the weekend.
I wasn't even at the game, and I'm physically sore, mentally drained,
Yeah.
emotionally on empty. I'm all those things, man. It was one of the craziest games I had ever seen, and I had accepted defeat 10 times over once the game had concluded. When we got the ball first, I wasn't even excited. I was a little excited because he called tails, and tails never fails, and that's all in good fun. And I was like, all right, this is it. This is the game. We have to make something happen here. And then I thought we had lost. And then we got the ball back. And then I said, this is it. Here we go. We have to win it here. This is it. And then we had lost. And then we got it back. And then I said, this is really it. This is literally, there's no time left in the game. And they finally pulled it off, man. Yeah, you rattled off the offensive, like you gave me the sheet there, live time that you'll see on TV, the graphic, like here's the offense's last 10 drives, punt, pick, punt, whatever. And it sounded like in the beginning of the game, there was a little bit of action. In the middle, it was terrible. And at the end, it kind of sparked back up. It was like you were describing a speedometer going through a suburb. Like you can get up to 25, stop sign. You got to go 10, stop sign. Oh, you can get back up to 25 up this hill, stop sign. That's how the offense sounded like it performed yesterday. It was like a speedometer in a suburb. And you don't want that. You want to have more of a consistent speedometer. Like I'm talking on the highway, turnpike maybe. You got to have more consistent play from your offense. And that is all being said under the umbrella of we won the game. So I'm not calling for the sky to be fallen. I think there was still time for the offense to make improvements. You know, Mitch was bailed out a couple of different times on his good plays. And then there's bailed out and there's schemed up. You know, the Gentry play, it worked to perfection. Yeah. So I can't fault Mitch for that. That's where he was supposed to go, and it worked.
Oh, no, that was perfect. That was probably the best play call of the evening, maybe.
Exactly. So that's a schemed up. But then when Deontay catches a ball like Odell Beckham in 2014, that's bailed out. So you take the good with the bad with Mitch's play in that regard. I'm just happy they won the game because there were so many times towards the end when the Bengals were looking like the Bengals of last year, doing their annoying dances, thinking they're the cock of the walk, Jamar Chase, everything. That little pinky handshake that Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase on the sidelines did. Give me a break, bro. Like that did not look cool whatsoever. I don't know what's going through their minds thinking that's like a cool handshake. Oh, let's link pinkies, dude, and twist them. Not something I'd be doing with my friends personally, but to each their own. And
tell us how you really feel.
Dude, it didn't take long to get back into football season where I remembered that like this is why I get so worked up. And yeah, it's great when the Steelers are doing well and those are the good times, but I almost get more worked up just with how angry I get at the opposing team thinking they have the right to celebrate in my face. But where do they get off? You know, I've worked hard for this fandom that I've developed over the past 15 years. I don't need Joe Mixon and Jamar Chase grittying in my face when they're tying the game late when we should have had it won.
No, I totally agree with you. And where I was going is like when I had actually heard, I'm the geek that also has an earpiece in. I was listening to the Bengals radio broadcast feed during the game. And of course, it's probably about like a play behind or a half minute behind just because, you know, it's getting relayed through space and then back to my ears. And I'm watching everything live as they're calling it. And at some point, they were like, hey, so-and-so's warming up with special teams. What's going on with our long snapper? And I'm like, oh, long snapper injury. I'm like, that could be really intriguing. And it was just one of these things that got blipped like on the scoreboard, will not return. You know what
Yeah,
I
dude,
mean?
I had no clue. I had no clue until they lined up for the 1 point, and I was like, "Oh, they're long snappers out." I didn't want to let myself be naive and caught up in the moment and think, "Oh, they could miss this." Instead, I've been like seasoned by the realists in my life and everybody who thinks I'm too positive. And I was like, "It doesn't even matter, dude. They'll still make this extra point." And it was a real problem, man. This guy, he couldn't get the snap down. I mean, it didn't go over the holder's head, but they were high snaps, they were messy snaps. Laces were out or they were in. I mean, we need the laces
Right,
out,
fake
but
goal.
they were in.
Hey, the fans that are behind me are like two gentlemen probably around my same age, and they just seem like football people. And after the tying score there, where it's 20 all near the end, and I see this 84 come out, the like line up in the middle, and I'm like, tight end? I'm like, is that a tight end? And at this point, they tap me on the shoulder and they're like, hey, our long snapper's hurt. As like, this might not be over yet. And these are the guys that are like, they're waiting to win this game. You know what I mean? Oh, screw the Steelers. Yeah, we may have lost 5 of these, but we're the Bengals. Who they going to beat them Bengals? Or, you know what I mean? And all that crap that they do. And lo and behold, man, the snap, not good. And then you've got a tight end sized guy. And they said it was like their 4th string tight end that's barely even been practicing.
Yeah, he doesn't play much at all.
And it's funny to just hear coaches say, oh, yeah, they work on that or whatever. And it's like, when did this dude, like, he didn't work on this at all?
Like day 2 of training camp, like, oh, yeah, this guy can snap. Okay, you're a backup long snapper. Guarantee this guy doesn't, like, take the time every day of practice. Wilcox is his name. He's backup tight end. He never sees the field.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I was going to say Wilcox. I wasn't sure if that was the long snapper or the tight end because I didn't even get a chance to rewatch the entire game because it was so damn long. I watched about 3/4 of it so far. So if some of these things are just from recall, sitting in the stadium or seeing it differently. Also, we don't have the benefit of the people on TV telling us some of this stuff. So the people in the stadium had absolutely no clue. For the most part, the people like in my section knew because not just me, and I wasn't saying it just to like grind into somebody and be like, oh, see, it's not over, it's the backup long snapper. But I was like, I said it earlier, the folks next to me were really cool. For some reason, the 2 seats next to me were empty. Must have been they overcharged for this game big time. Ticketmaster and the Bengals did week 1 and then division game and Steelers. Oh yeah, the tickets were like insanely priced. But that's a whole other like.
The NFL trying to get money, dude? No, can't be.
That was direct. It wasn't like, it was like 300 some bucks, I think, like even in the rafters, like nosebleed section, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just like, what, like these games, it's like we paid like 115 plus fees or whatever, and you were able to buy the ticket 2 days before last year because nobody cared about them until like later in the season. And I'll always poke fun at the team for that, but it was good. It was nice to see them have some support out there. It actually felt like one hell of an environment. But it changed the Bengals play calling to not have that long snapper. Like they're going to go for it on 4th down because now you don't even have the guy that could snap for a punt. And that's also why they left time on the clock with the play clock, and they could have chewed off a few more seconds where Boswell, not Schweizum, has time for that extra field goal at the end. And Steelers.
I heard Zach Taylor try and explain that away, and you know what? Yeah. I actually kind of feel for Zach Taylor because I think the conversation when something like this with Wilcox and the punter in that closing minute, I think he told Wilcox, like, listen, dude. We know like you don't do this often, and this is like the game right here. You know, we're going for the tie at this point because we're kicking it back to them. We don't expect to get it back. There's like 50 seconds left, so I'm being Zach Taylor right now. So Wilcox, I'm telling you, get in your stance, hold the ball. As soon as you feel that like you have it, like the moment's right, like you feel comfortable, snap the ball. Like don't wait, don't risk it, don't overthink it. As soon as you feel comfortable, like you've checked your reads. You have the ball like lined up how it should be. You look back, you check the punter, just snap it, dude. Because they're in like code red scenario over there. So I get it's easy to pile on Zach Taylor for leaving those 15 seconds on there. But I think he told Wilcox directly, dude, as soon as you're comfortable, just snap it. Because we can't risk it going over his head or anything and making it even easier on the Steelers. And Wilcox had we experienced this with James Harrison back in like 2007. You lose your long snapper and it's huge. And it had a big part of that missed extra point, but I don't want to take anything away from Minka Fitzpatrick getting his hand on that ball.
But that's the reason he was able to get through, because not only are you snapping, you also have to have your assignment to block. And I was looking right in the middle of that special teams unit, and I said, that's coming from there, but who's coming? And wouldn't you know, it gets right through.
He put on probably, potentially, almost definitely his best game as a professional. I was having this thought in the shower this morning, not to be weird, but I thought about, I just kept thinking about how great and how much Minka wanted it yesterday, and how it was so obvious on television, the emotion he was playing with, and the speed at which he was playing with. It was a Polamalu-like performance. It really was. From the pick six, from the physicality he was playing with, the leadership he was displaying, the big time plays in crunch time that he had time and time again. It was a Polamalu performance. We haven't seen something like this at the safety position since Troy Polamalu. I know Minka's been good since he's been here. He's been great. I love Minka. One of my most frequently worn jerseys. I'm wearing a shirt right now that says "Thank God for Minka Fitzpatrick." But
that's great.
I haven't seen something like that. I don't think any of us have since Troy Polamalu, and it was an incredible game from Minka, and a real nice middle finger to the NFL or whoever compiled the top 100 list this past year and kept him off it. One of the best safeties in football, if not the best, kept him off the top 100. Makes total sense.
Yeah, and maybe making his own case for Defensive Player of the Year, which TJ Watt may have also as well. And we're going to maybe dive into some of those, dive into the game and the play-by-play type stuff here. Uno momento.
Well, I don't think TJ can win it now, unfortunately.
Yeah, we're going to see. I know we were hoping for strain. There was a lot of eyewitness reports that are saying he just showered and everything looked normal. I mean, and for my wrestling friends that are out there, Cody Rhodes just had a very similar injury, went out and actually wrestled like a main event or semi-main event, like cage match on one of these WWE pay-per-views. And
I think I saw that going around on Twitter.
You know what? I got to find, it would be nice if I could find a,
he's all like black and blue all over his pec.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like just absolutely like gross. I got to see if we could find, I can't find it. Believe it or not, it doesn't show up first thing in the search, but yeah, it was really like nasty. It looked like almost like an alien, like had some type of alien blood coursing through his veins. And I don't know that I'm not sure anybody would say it. I don't think they would be at liberty, like his teammates or anybody like that, to go out on a limb and be like, oh, well, it's very much like, the same thing here. And for those of us on the video portion of the podcast, there it is. Wow. It looks like a world map or something. You know what I mean? Here's the landmass just in the middle. And I don't know. And obviously that's been a while ago, and you would think that an injury like that would potentially be season ending, but people were already out there saying JJ, his brother, came back from it after 8 weeks, and you start doing the timetable and the math in your head. And if it's true, and it's a more serious type thing that he can return to in a similar fashion and get some pointers from Big Brother, that puts you right at the bye week.
I was going to say, if you say it like the Steelers could be 4-4, 5-3 by the time TJ comes back, that's not nightmare scenario.
No, and you know what? I was even thinking to myself here, even with all of the, we're not ones that dwell on negativity, but it's like we've got to change over in personnel, and there were things that were bad. If the Baltimore Ravens handled the Jets yesterday, and that's the way the Steelers maybe should have handled the Bengals. I get the Bengals are a better team, but all of those turnovers, there's anything 3 or more when you're +3, you've got to be in the win column like firmly, and it didn't feel firm. And we're saying the long snapper doesn't get hurt. Well, yeah, that guy just nailed, what did he kick? A 57-yard field goal, Money McPherson? Like he kicked it like in the beginning of the game. So anyways, it happened
in the Niners game. Remember the year Ben blew his elbow out? I think we had 5 turnovers on the nose, but we lost that one. It was Minka's first game as a Steeler. That's kind of creepily ironic that Minka's first game as a Steeler, we had 5 turnovers. Fast forward to yesterday, he put on his best performance as a Steeler, and we had 5 turnovers. But we won yesterday, and we lost to the Niners in 2019.
Yeah, the James Conner fumble within like their own 20, and basically just set it up right. Just here you go. gift wrapped it, the football, and right in the red zone for the Niners to come back there. And it was one of those graphics that pops up too. It was something like Mike Tomlin, and I think that's the only loss he's had. He was like 20 and something and one with however many turnovers in a game or whatever, as far as the defense.
And it was that Niners game was the one.
Yeah, I believe the Niners game was that one, now that you're saying that. So, but this is something that will interest you. A little different change of pace here, just because we want to talk about our sponsor, No House Advantage. And maybe some folks got in on some of these plays yesterday with the apps and whatnot. No House Advantage is changing the game by offering the most dynamic fantasy sports platform available today. Play in pick'em contests versus other people for the shot at winning $150,000 plus in cash. Download the app, choose a contest, select your player props, earn points for correct picks, and climb the leaderboard for your shot to win big money every day. I always joke the big money thing is Menards, but you can get your big money here too.
Brother, spread the wealth, man. Yesterday was a pretty solid day. I hit the Freiermuth over on yardage. It was 30 yards. I said he's getting that, no problem. Had that by the first half. And I had Steelers money line plus 235. I always take their money line, so I won't brag about that. But that was a nice win as well, because nobody had any belief that we were going to beat the Bengals besides Steeler fans. And I said,
nobody
not,
did.
Dude?
I mean, we didn't either. Brian picked them to sweep us, so it's like, but
that sounds like a you guys problem, not a me problem.
Well, you can also test your skills versus the house, and 20 times your entry if you hit all of your picks. So you could bet on up to 5 player props, over and unders, or individual player matchups across every major sports league. So as we're heading into Major League Baseball, it's got the playoffs around the corner here. You still got Monday Night Football and Thursday Night Football. So don't forget NFL, NBA, PGA. You could do golf. You could do the UFC stuff and the MMA fights, NASCAR, name it all. Sign up now with promo code Steel City at nohouseadvantage.com, or download the app on any of the various app stores for iOS / Apple. I gotta say that some people aren't as technical, you know what I mean? It just says the App Store. I got, they got that kind of trademarked. Or if you're on the Android platform, nothing wrong with that. Go on over to nohouseadvantage.com. Use the promo code Steel City, and you'll get a first deposit match up to $25. And make sure to check.
I'm about to do that myself.
Yeah, take advantage of it today, man. Experience daily fantasy sports redefined, because it's not just how you play, but where you play. You won't want to miss out on this. It's nohouseadvantage.com. Very slick, very cool app, very new thing to get involved in, and for you to play with your money, maybe even against the house and whatnot too, brother. So I'm gonna go through some of the game book just a little bit too, and I know this could be very boring, and like Bill Hillgrove said, and we said 100 plays and it'd take an hour to explain, but Steelers came out the gate in the first series, throw. Very hard to establish the run when you're just throwing. And I think Deontay got jobbed on that. That was the whole challenge flag deal with the timeout that we were talking about. Joe Burrow, we already mentioned, sacked Cam Hayward. I had Cam's jersey on yesterday. Grown-ass man. One hell of a game from him. And then the Joe Burrow interception, pick 6 to Minka Fitzpatrick. And then you're thinking, well, it's great that they scored, because you don't know if the Steelers offense could score. But at the same time, the defense has to come back out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's always the catch-22 about a big interception or a big turnover for a touchdown. Is defense got to go right back out there. Some guys got to be out there for special teams too.
Yeah, and the Bengals changed gears here. Joe Mixon, 5 yards. Joe Mixon, 6 yards. There was a pass, a 3-yard short little pass to Tyler Boyd, and then Mixon again, no gain.
I hate that asshole. I'm sorry. I have to cut in. Mixon is so goddamn annoying, dude. Let's not forget, he's a woman beater. I mean, I'm not lying. He did that. It's on film from college.
And no suspension in the NFL. Like they went after Zeke. You have this whole Watson hoopla. Not to get into all the off field and things like that, but that was one of the more bizarre ones to me. I get some of the stuff as accusations, but it seems like the NFL as an employer wants to enact and be their own judge, jury, and executioner, but they also pick and choose when to do it and how severe that punishment is going to be as well. So that one does bug me a little bit.
Absolutely. And he's always had he's a Bengal, but he's always had this attitude towards the Steelers. I think so anyway. Ever since he got called like a wannabe Le'Veon Bell, the one day because one game he showed up wearing opposite colored gloves, like a black glove and a white glove. And that was like a big Le'Veon Bell thing. So then Le'Veon and him exchanged words about like, oh, you want to be me, bro. And he said, no, you want to be me, bro. And it became like a whole thing. And then ever since that moment, Joe Mixon goes out of his way to do his little dances and his points at the end zone, his little shake back and forths. And I cannot stand it, dude. The Bengals are so good at having these guys. They always have a handful of them that do a little something extra that just gets under my skin whenever we play them. And it makes me want to beat them all the more. During the game, I get lost in the moment. I'm like, I want to win so badly now, just to fucking stick it in this guy's face. And by the time we win the game, I'm so stressed out and so tired, I forget about it anyway.
Yeah, it's Fuentes Perfect.
Yes.
Is one. Pac-Man Jones, because I was telling some folks that are Bengals fans, oh, we were like, it's on, you know what I mean, like right before the weekend and things like that. And I told them, I'm like, anything can happen, really. I was probably more positive with them than I was on this own show. I'm like, it's September football, it's week 1. The Bengals, oh my goodness, the Bengals fans were walking out of there. Joe Mixon, or not Joe Mixon, but Joe Burrow and all these guys, he had that surgery and he didn't play enough, and they didn't play these guys in the preseason, and that's what you get. And look at the Rams doing the same thing. And oh yeah, there was a lot of shade being thrown at Zach Taylor and the way he's managed and run this team. But on paper, there's still a good team that probably came out of this with like hardly any injuries. You had to hit on T. Higgins that they wanted a penalty for with Terrell Edmonds, helmet to helmet. I mean, Terrell Edmonds was like straight up, squared up, like down to a knee. Yeah,
that's bang play.
It is. And Charles Davis, oh, I hate to say that. Well, what else you gonna say? It is a bang play. You know what I mean? But the Bengals got a field goal, 59. I was wrong, 57, 59-yard field goal with some to spare from Evan McPherson. That ended up being a 7-3 game with only the Steelers defense scoring some points. Steelers go 3 and out here, only a 41-yard punt to the Cincinnati 29 by Presley Harvin. Had to be better. He did have a better one later, but geez, the consistency, the field position battle, got to do a little bit better there. Cam Sutton ends up with an interception that doesn't end up being an interception. And he's called for pass interference, of which then Joe Burrow is then sacked right after this on the next play. Alex Highsmith recovered by Cam Hayward. Huge grown-ass man play. Gives the Steelers the ball at the Cincinnati 34. Mitch Trubisky ends up finding Pat Freiermuth on one of the better plays, throws of the game. Very first one here on the first snap, 1st and 10. But they get down to the 3. They almost don't get what they need to get. Or they don't get it on this one. I'm sorry. Najee Harris is stuffed, and you get a 20-yard Chris Boswell chip shot to make the game 10-3, and what was a very long first quarter. It seems like it took forever. The Bengals, they try and fire back most of their drives. Even it was mostly the turnovers. It was really the turnovers. They protect the football, and they moved the ball. They probably put some more points on the board here, and maybe we're not happy about a victory, and we're kvetching even more about other stuff.
Dude. Absolutely. So, a turnover. I have this debate with myself all the time. What do I get more excited for? Like a game-changing interception or a touchdown? I get the touchdown is the points one, like the obvious choice. But interceptions, like when you get a good one that really stops an offense, it's huge. It sounds so simple and so obvious coming out of my mouth, but turnovers, yeah, they're whole reasons why you win games.
You gotta catch me when we have a coffee, man.
My bad, dude. Yeah, my timing's off this morning.
So's mine. I'm like all over the place too. This next series ends in a turnover as well, and this was intended for Hayden Hurst, I suppose. This is the TJ Watt. I'm gonna catch it right at the line of scrimmage interception. Of which he throws the grenade, and they're all shooting down the plane or whatever they were doing for the celebration on the sidelines.
Yeah, that was sick. That's the new turnover team photo, I guess.
Yeah, and this is more of the good Mitch. Jaylen Warren ends up coming in. There's been some question, Najee Harris, his ankle, what's it going to be like? But clearly Jaylen Warren coming in this game even before Najee is even dinged. Maybe he's dealing with some more issues from training camp from the injury as well. And people were questioning whether they would preserve him or not. And Jaylen Warren gets a little bit of time in this game. Early on, not a whole lot, but just enough to give him a spell. And this was the one where there was the Chidobe Awuzie has the pass interference on George Pickens, who didn't have quite the impact. There was like a ball that was thrown like far out of bounds. There was that one. I think he was targeted maybe 3 times if I look officially. But the Steelers get new life. Najee Harris with the 1-yard touchdown reception. Mitchell Trubisky's first touchdown pass as a Pittsburgh Steeler, and coincidentally, or however we want to say it, the only one that he ended up having in this game. Let's see, what else do we got? Some good stuff to talk about here. We could probably go through all of these drives, but what we really need to know is it's just 36 yards of passing in the second half for Mitchell Trubisky. I didn't look up the actual run yards and the breakdown.
Felt like the Bengals had the ball for the entire second half, so maybe that doesn't help, because we punted so many times.
You know what? Thank you for mentioning that, because team-wise, time of possession in this game, 43 minutes and 43 seconds for the Cincinnati Bengals, 43-43 to the Steelers, 26-17. They had it for almost an entire quarter longer than the Steelers. That was in regulation. They had it 15 minutes longer practically.
That's why I think when Cam Hayward went down, I kind of you could tell he was like waving off the trainer or whoever to tell him something. And I think he was just so gassed at that point, and we haven't heard anything bad about Cam being injured. So I think that was pure fatigue and just being tired from being on the field that much. The TJ injury, obviously a lot more serious. You know what, dude? The whole you briefly touched on that. The Pickens usage was very surprising to me, almost as surprising as the Claypool usage. It seemed like the script had flipped over camp and preseason about who was who there. Because granted, Pickens didn't do a whole lot of jet sweep action. They didn't really run the ball with George Pickens at all. That's kind of been a Claypool thing. But as far as being out there as much as they were and targeted and as a on-purpose point of the offense, it seemed like Claypool really had his game elevated yesterday, or at least highlighted, I should say. They were giving him his chances a lot. And Deontay and Claypool both in their own right came through in big ways for us. Deontay a little more towards the end, of course, but Chase was one of the few consistent bright spots of the offense. I thought Freiermuth obviously was as well, leading us in receiving yards with 75 and winning me some money. He also was wearing Heath Miller cleats, which I thought was really cool. He had cleats designed, I think, by Cody Sable. I don't want to get that wrong if it was by somebody else. But this guy, he's an artist in Pittsburgh, and he made these cleats or designed them for Freiermuth, and it had a little mural, little rendition of Heath Miller on there. And Freiermuth tweeted about the cleats before the game with a goat emoji. So it was cool seeing Freiermuth put up nearly 100 yards wearing his Heath Miller goat cleats.
What about Coach T and the black Air Force Ones?
That was sick. Great move.
Is. And obviously he's walking around too in all black with the black Air Force Ones. It's like, pretty much should have just had a "Don't Tread on Me" flag he was carrying around too.
Tomlin's so cool, man. If you're just against the movement at this point, I mean, you're making it harder on yourself. It's a fun time being a Tomlin fan. Come on over.
It really is. Get me some Air Force Ones, Coach. I'll definitely take them. I was going to say Steelers. Najee Harris was only 4 for 6 rushing in the first half, and you can't get a whole lot going just right there on that alone. I struggle with this second half because I already went through some of the drive chart. I don't necessarily want to do play by play, but a second half summary and statistics. Then Najee was 6 for 17. They got a little bit more out of him, whereas Claypool was only 2 for 7. They were kind of figured out the jet sweep type deal. Mitch had the one run
Matt
for 6
Canada,
yards.
Fake it, please. Fake it, man. They never fake it. If you're going to give it to Chase or whoever, every single jet sweep, the defense will key in on that, dude. Like, you have to fake it every once in a while. You want to talk about incorporating play action. Yeah, it's harder to do with a bad offensive line, but here's a simple way to do it. Fake the jet sweep, man. It'll make it work more often.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And as we get into, let's see, I mean, just the offense in general, 36 yards passing, 30 yards rushing in the second half. Not second quarter, not third quarter, not for one half, just 66 yards total and 3 points after all of these.
That's where I think you need to be, not you, Joe, the person, I mean the audience. You need to be a little bit open to this idea of, well, maybe the idea of Kenny getting on the field at some point soon here isn't that outrageous, because those are abysmal numbers from the offense, man. Abysmal. And I'm not saying bench Mitch now, but those offensive numbers tell you all you need to hear.
It does tell you all you need to hear. The Steelers did force, well, almost like a 3-and-out. They got another interception in this. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I'm still in the second quarter. Blah, 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 blah. Let me go back. Third quarter. Here we go. 3-and-out. I was right. The first time. 3-and-out. 58-yard punt by Huber, who I think has the most active or appearances as a Bengals player all time. I think he broke whatever record yesterday in that game. I'm like, I feel like that dude's been there forever.
Dude, he's been there since Sean Alexander was on the cover of Madden, I want to say.
That's going right. Like, wait, Sean Alexander, or we're talking Seahawks Sean Alexander or Washington Sean Alexander?
Seahawks.
I mean, that's a good throwback, man. That's going some ways. I mean, at least the Steelers got a first down on the next drive, but they pretty much just succumbed to punting. And it didn't work out too well here. It was just a 40-yard punt, and the Bengals end up with good field position again on the Steelers 46. They're damn near at the middle of the field, and that's how they were able to run 9 plays, 46 yards for a touchdown and a 2-point conversion in order to get this within 3 points. Even that 2-point conversion, if they could do a little more, the quick slants were absolutely brutalizing them. We saw some different things on the defense, which I thought was very interesting. You had Miles Jack sometimes out there on the with the DBs, and then Robert Spillane. And I didn't think it was a very bad game by Devin Bush. It looked like he was mostly where he needed to be to stop the run. And there's something else that's kind of funny within this whole grand scheme of everything in yesterday's game. So, as you know, Larry Ogunjobi comes over from, well, he's done the AFC North tour, right? He's been with the Browns, he's been with the Bengals, and he was with the Bengals last year, and he actually should have signed with the Chicago Bears, but then that didn't work out, and he ends up with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So anytime yesterday when Ogunjobi's name was called for a stop, for a tackle, or whatever, they were booing his ass.
Really?
The Bengals fans, yeah, they were booing him, and I don't know if it was just they were being playful or what. They feel like they were traitors or like he's a traitor or something. But your team made absolutely zero anything. They didn't show any interest in him, and he was sitting there collecting dust when training camp was starting to roll around, and the Steelers end up signing him. So that was something interesting that I wanted to point out.
It didn't take much to bring him into camp, man. Don't blame us. Don't blame Larry. And if they were booing every time he did something good yesterday, they were doing a lot of booing because Ogunjobi popped off the screen to me. Me and everybody at my buddy's house, we all were noticing how he was doing a great job at helping Phil for the run game. It's amazing the night and day difference of having guys like Larry Ogunjobi, Tyson Alualu, and Miles Jack can have on your run defense.
Oh, man.
Almost like we've said that before on this show numerous times over.
How about the Marvin Leal? I thought
he had a good game too.
And Malik Reed was good as the rotational guy, giving a breather here or there. And he certainly stuck me.
Though, he really looked the part. He looked like a guy that the Bears gave a $50 million contract to this offseason, which they did, and then had to pull it last second because of his physical. Like, he looked the part of a very good defensive lineman. And Tyson, too, to his credit. I wasn't as focused on Tyson, but his impact was noticed as well. But Larry O, hats off. I'm very, very satisfied with what I saw from the first game of Larry Ogunjobi and Miles Jack.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think we'll get into this a little bit more, the defensive statistics, as we talked an awful lot about offense, but Presley Harvin, the Steelers get a little bit more of a sustained drive here heading into around the end of the third quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter. Harvin has a 53-yard punt that ends up out of bounds down at the Bengals 9-yard line, and this forces another 3-and-out. Something goofy happened in this game, too, with Mixon, where he got cut or something. He was bleeding, and I think he had to leave the field, and they put Sanjay Perine in, which probably wasn't their more favored deal there, but Mixon's in there, and then Burrow got sacked again by a one Alex Highsmith. And we do need to talk about some of the defensive statistics here, because what did Highsmith end up with? Like
three sacks, I think.
Yeah, 3 sacks. He had a bunch of pressures. Let's see. I'm going to see what I can pull up on. I've been a very big proponent of his for a while. 4 hits on the quarterback, 2 tackles for loss, and he also had a forced fumble in this game as well. This is where I'm a little more hopeful that I don't know. I'm going to have to look and see if we've got anything that's like remotely close to TJ Watt news, which I don't think we'll have until probably Tomlin's presser, unless something leaks out or squeaks out a little bit soon. But you want, like Will Graves, for example, said, TJ Watt's in the Steelers facility today in shorts and a t-shirt, no visible wrap, etc. on his left shoulder, upper body area. That means absolutely nothing, but I'm sure Dr. Twitter will have a full diagnosis ASAP. He's absolutely right there. Will Graves works for the Associated Press, covers the Steelers, and maybe some other teams too, but I know I always see him talking about the Steelers, so that's a very, that's a blue check mark certified source there, fresh Forians that are watching. And I know you cannot replace. You want to talk about some dumb stuff? Can I pull up your graphic for a second? Bang, because this is totally off topic, and I know me and you got in a fight over it. It was just a joke over Mason Rudolph that I was joking along with you somewhat. I'm like, if he went to the Cowboys, he would. It wouldn't benefit him at all to just jump. He can't jump right in. Then he would look like a stooge and be out of the league entirely.
No, the joke was I don't care about that. I'm sure Mason's a nice guy in his own right, but like, too bad, so sad, dude. Like,
yeah. If
the Cowboys were to give us a 4th round pick for him, I'd be like, okay, see ya. Good luck with that offense.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. You were saying it because it had Cowboys because of Oklahoma State when he played there.
Yeah, he'd be right at home.
Right at home. I'm not sure if he's like local to that area, if that was part of his choice or not. I didn't bother to look, but I was actually thinking to myself that there was somebody before. Keep in mind, grain of salt here. It's social media. We need to trade someone. Let's say we could give Mason Rudolph up to get a replacement for TJ Watt, and I'm like
Micah Parsons.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, they're going to give up Micah Parsons. Okay, this is still the thing where Rudolph
He's
sucks.
He's their franchise player now. He's their best player.
Oh, by far.
There's like no middle ground.
I wish the Steelers could have like even sniffed drafting him like over Najee. That may have been, I'll tell you what, if he was there, I think that ends up happening. Like, no doubt in my mind. But
Steelers love their linebackers. I mean, I had no clue he could rush the passer like he can. I thought he was like a Devin Bush, Devin White, type of player. I didn't know that he could do the edge thing so well, and he's arguably a better edge rusher than he is an overall linebacker, which is a smart financial move on his part, because when contract time comes around, his agent will be like, no, Parsons is an edge rusher. He's not a linebacker, because the edge rushers get paid
the most in the
NFL.
A lot more. It'll be one of those bleeding edge type territories like Lev Bell trying to get wide receiver money and Jimmy Graham trying to get wide receiver money because they get paid a lot more. I think of that stuff like all the time. It's like you didn't excel or get put in. You're in the NFL. You know what I mean? So there's that. Then there's like a guy like Malik Reed now. It's probably going to be playing TJ Watt snaps and making like a minuscule fraction of the type of contract that he has. And that makes me feel more hopeful, though. Like, I'm not all Debbie Downer here. It sucks to have injuries. They have enough reinforcements to maybe play without Levi Wallace. I was going there originally to talk about, like, they use Trey Norwood quite a bit. They switched Mollett sometimes, depending on how they wanted to cover the slot position in this game. DeMarvin Leal was out there and got a healthy amount of time. I could probably look and see how many snaps he actually played.
Check my Twitter. I just retweeted something about that this morning about the snap counts. They were all there, and you saw Sutton was the only corner who never came off the field.
Yeah, which isn't highly unlikely. Most of the safeties will stay out there. I mean, I think Edmonds came off a little bit. You had 3 players. Actually, Edmonds was one of them. Minka Fitzpatrick, Kello Witherspoon. Sutton came out for one. It has, according to the official game book, 99 plays. Didn't get the full century mark there. Everything's thrown off in this game book, too, because of the extra third digit for these 100 plays. Like, everything's all like askew. Like, they had to fit it on the page. Yeah. Speaking of safeties, man, Von Bell had a hell of a game too for the Bengals. That dude was everywhere. I mean, he's a good ball player. He really is. I mean, I know Bates had a breakup here or there too, but
I'm always in awe of Trey Hendrickson. I think he's true blue, a good football player. I liked him in New Orleans and had a pipe dream that we'd be able to coerce him to come in here, but I didn't know that he was going to demand the money that the Bengals gave him, and rightfully so, because you can make the case that he's their most influential and best defensive player. Maybe Jesse Bates, but Hendrickson's a monster, dude.
Yeah, they even got Montrevious Adams out the one game. Like, so there was some interesting observations were when the Bengals were in like 4th down mode. The one punt ended up with the whole Steelers starting defense out there. And was it the punt or was it McPherson's kick, 59-yarder? It might have been the kick from McPherson. They were all out there. TJ was out there. I mean, Cam's usually out there on special teams, but I'm talking everybody. And I think they were thinking, what if they change their alignment, go for a fake in this situation or something like that.
You do that in Madden too. When you think your buddy's going to do a fake, you just call a regular defense and line them out there against whatever they're doing, punt or field goal. I'm sure our Madden listeners can relate that if you think your buddy's going to pull a fast one on special teams, just put a regular defense out there. It's just your best shot.
The random 13-year-old that's on Xbox Live or whatever, like telling you, you know, making mom jokes in your ear, but they're not gone through puberty, squeaky Alvin the Chipmunk voice. That's why I don't play online anymore. I don't have time for this. I'm not going to deal with these kids. Not only that, this is all these kids do. Like, I've got like a life, I've got family, you know, I've got a job. You got all these things that are your responsibilities, and you get that one chance to kind of go and play Madden, and you have the jerk that's gonna like go for it on 4th and 12 and screw
or
you
when
up.
you get up a couple scores, they quit. Like, online Madden's not for me. If I want to argue with people behind screens and get called nasty names, I'll just go on Twitter for 5 minutes.
We could do it here. I'm sure we could accommodate. We could accommodate. Yeah, Miles Jack, 87% of the game. I mean, this is funny where the percentages line up with the actual snaps because of 100. So he played 87 snaps. Highsmith played 83. TJ ended up with 66. Got hurt right at the tail end. We were heading into the fourth quarter on our little rundown here, and they end up forcing the Steelers defense does another three and out. The defense themselves, I mean, they just, I think, got gassed at some point. I think that we've mentioned that multiple times. How can you not?
Absolutely.
How can you not, like, be totally exhausted? It's still warm. It's still September. Look at what the Patriots did with the Dolphins. They tried to go down there 5 days early to acclimate themselves because they do terrible in Miami. Now I'm worried the Steelers are going to do that in October. It's still going to be warm enough down there. And then they're playing the Will Smith song on Sirius XM NFL radio. It's like, welcome to Miami.
Oh, I know it well, brother.
Yeah. So almost a scared Deontay Johnson with the fumble. Somewhere around this, I missed the Mitch Trubisky. It might be coming up. The Mitch Trubisky should have probably been a safety play, and getting rid of it barely to Pat Freiermuth. I know we covered or touched on it a little earlier, but it was part of the rest of the scares of not so great play by the offense in that third and fourth quarter, second half before they go into overtime. And the Bengals pretty much just getting chunks and chunks here or there and then shooting themselves in the foot. And one of these drives here was, I believe, Dan Moore at some point gets called for an offensive holding. And it was one where Mitch actually ends up running out and squeaking out of bounds. But I was pulling what a little hair I had out. Pat Freiermuth was Gunnar Olszewski preseason open down the field. And I'm just like, find them. And I'm going to leave it at that because it would be called a Mitch hater. Look, he protected the football. And like we said, he did what he needed to do. There was a play somewhere else besides that heads up to try and not give up the 2 points for a safety, which would have been ball game here, where the play clock was running down. I believe this may have been in overtime. And he took a quick snap with about a second, or it just hits the zeros. You know, the referees just let it go. That's what they do. Air toward the offense. And he rifles this ball right into the sidelines. And I don't know if you caught this on TV too, but in overtime, they had to shut down one of the sideline scoreboards. Like they have like that, they call it the ribbon. And it's on like one of the lower tier decks, and it shows you the score, and it also shows scores for other games and advertisements and stuff, and it rotates through. They couldn't fix the clock on it, and they were trying forever. The game? I believe in overtime, because they ended up putting like a
I know the last
26.
pass he just threw out of bounds as hard as he could because the out route wasn't open. I knew that.
Yeah,
I saw that play.
Yeah, there was some heads up play there where I'm trying to say this is why you probably go with the veteran. It's not to say that Kenny wouldn't know any better, but maybe Mitch has been in this situation, or at least is aware of the situation because he started 50 NFL games. So there's from everybody calling me Mitch haters. Somebody said I was a homer, which when you're talking bad about a guy, I don't think that makes you a homer, but to each their own.
Steelers homer, Mitch hater. Get it right.
Can't be both. Can't be both. If somebody said that he didn't develop under Matt Nagy and then said he made the Pro Bowl, I'm like, well, which is it, man? Is he good or is he bad? Like, you can't have it both ways. You can have your cake and eat it too, which never made sense to me. I said that to my daughter yesterday. She looked at me and she's like, that doesn't make any sense. I'm like, well, instead of the dumb things my dad said, it's the dumb things my mom said, because my mom is where I get yins and all of the yinzers speak from. And that's why I became an English major eventually when I went to college. I have a shirt that says, I'm silently correcting your grammar. And I wore it around my uncle, and I think I offended him.
I've seen those at Target.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, yeah, he definitely knows. He's. I won't even get into that. You know what I mean? Like Pacific instead of specific and things like that just drive me absolutely batty. You had a play. Are we in overtime yet? There's fourth quarter, and the Steelers. Presley Harvin has a 60-yard punt, and our long snapper Christian Kuntz ends up holding someone on this play, and it's like, what are you doing, man? Like, it was, it ended up like a touchback, and it's enforced.
Hometown hero letting us down, dude. I was not pleased with Christian Kuntz on that one. The pride of Duquesne coming through with a hold. He had a good game, though. We were just talking about how important long snapping is. So if that's the worst thing Christian Kuntz does all season, that's all right.
You had the Steelers down to the 2-minute warning, force a 4th and 2. Where Joe Burrow misses Jamar Chase, and then there was the penalty for taunting on Jamar Chase for 15 yards. It brings the ball out instead of being on the Steelers' 2-yard line and backed up in their own end zone in this critical game where we've almost seen a safety before, and we've seen the offensive line become Swiss cheese at times with certain amounts of pressure. It brings it out to the 17, and you have Najee run the football. Okay, we're going to force the Bengals to use the rest of their timeouts. They have 2 remaining now. They got the 2-minute warning, which kind of helped. They didn't actually need it, though. They needed it right before that. So they had the timeout, the 4th down play, and now a turnover on downs. There's 1 minute and 51 seconds left. It kicks down to 1:44, and for some reason, Mitchell Trubisky is throwing the football. And this is where I'm throwing Matt Canada under the bus. I don't know if this is something that was changed at the line or called in the huddle, but what are you doing throwing the football? Like, I know everybody probably thinks you're going to run, and then punt. That's what you probably should do, because when they punt the ball back, the Bengals end up getting the ball back. They only used one of the 2 timeouts that they had left, and they ran the ball with Claypool, which was, they're looking for it at this point. I'm not going to blame it. It's worth a try, and you got to run a play that kills the clock. Because Najee was hurt because of the penalty or the rules that they changed, the Steelers were forced to use one of their timeouts because they are the team on offense. They're in the lead. You're not going to run a 10-second runoff or whatever else. That's to the advantage of the Steelers to run that off the clock. So they were forced to use one of their timeouts in this situation.
This is why I was saying I thought we had lost like 4 different times over, because it was a terrible final, like, minute 40 seconds for the Steelers as a whole. It was just like blow after blow, mistake after mistake. Why are you doing that after why are you doing that? And I was convinced we were about to lose. I mean, I'm sure everybody was.
Yeah, and they get chopped up here, man. I mean, 1 minute and 27 seconds, and Burrow operates 9 plays for 60 yards, which culminates in Jamar Chase 6-yard touchdown reception. He's the real deal, and he's carving them up. And like you said, maybe this is a little different too if Zach Taylor ends up challenging one of these other plays. There's a comedy of errors. There were people that talked about Mike Tomlin and his clock management, and that last series would have been a little more tough. Joe Burrow, that play was run with 4 seconds left on the clock, basically an untimed. Well, you don't time anything really for the PAT anyways. I think they may have put 2 seconds back on the clock for the kickoff for Gunnar Olszewski. You had a nice return on the one and put him in position. The Steelers.
I was going to say, I don't want to miss that for sure. Yeah, Gunnar definitely had a really good return for us. So got props to him for that.
3 and out. Steelers get the ball first, 3 and out. Jalen Warren for 2 yards. They're the Walking Dead right now. No Najee Harris. It's like, come on, what's going on?
2020, 2021.
Bringing the Bengals back out here with no TJ Watt on the field now, because TJ nearly at the end of this, he's hurt on 2nd and 10 with 22 seconds left and gets called for illegal use of hands going after Joe Burrow. And then, of course, an unnecessary roughness from Minka Fitzpatrick. So they're aided somewhat by Sean Hockley's crew. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree with his dad, from the dad to the son. Not much else you could say about that, though. I don't know if I could argue the TJ Watt one or not. I didn't get to see.
I know you don't want to complain about
it.
the refs, dude. I will. That felt on purpose. The closing seconds. We had like 4 penalties in a row on us. I couldn't physically take it. My chest was hurting.
I know. And you want to throw like the foam brick instead of a real one at the TV, the bad ref call brick. But you go into overtime, and then they get in position. The Bengals, they attempt this field goal on 3rd down, and Zach Taylor's saying the same thing. They already missed. Well, we missed the other thing. The extra point, which we already talked about, was missed, and then that goes into overtime. So he misses the chip shot. He's got a 29-yard attempt here, and you still have Wilcox as your long snapper, and they attempt this on 3rd down. In case there's a bad snap, it only backs you up just a little bit more. This guy just kicked a 59-yarder earlier in the game. So, if you have to fall on it and you maintain possession and you get another try at it to win the game, I think that's actually decent coaching. You're not going to burn time in overtime. This is sudden death now. The Steelers already had the football, and whoever scores first now after this, regular season rules. The playoffs have a whole other thing that they're going to do this year that they changed at the owners' meeting. So this still plays the same way. It's like both teams get a possession unless it's a touchdown or the other team already possessed it. So this would have ended the game. It didn't. Steelers get the ball at the 20. This is the Deontay Johnson one-handed, like, jump man, Air Jordan type.
I think can we all now cool off on social media being like, nobody's talking about this. Normally I'm for that movement.
Everybody's talking about it.
I know. I was gonna say I love piling on the media and acting like the Steelers aren't getting respected, because it happens frequently. We are, ever since like 2017, the national media has completely flipped on the Steelers and prefers to predict our failures as opposed to celebrate our successes. I'm with that, and I believe that. But since everybody's been whining and crying about the Deontay Johnson catch, I've seen Kyle Brandt highlighted this morning. I saw Nate Burleson highlighted this morning. So, like, he's getting his due credit. Let's relax.
Yeah, he most certainly is, and that's
Great
just catch. Yeah. And if you haven't seen it, we'll probably put it up at Steel City Underground at some time on the website. This rolls down to maybe give Chris Boswell a chance to win this game. This goes down to the Steelers 45. Trubisky ends up finding Chase Claypool, then no gain. Boswell comes out for a 55-yarder. You could see the wind. This is kind of kicking into the Ohio River over there in Cincinnati, kind of almost a very similar type setup to looking at the Heinz Field sign. Yeah. Acrisure. So it's like Paul Brown and Heinz Field become Paycor Stadium and Acrisure Stadium. Like, oh my goodness. I'll never get over this. I'm going to be saying this as long as I would say a Jesse caught it. So he misses it. And I mean, the ball literally, as it's getting towards the uprights, does one of those swirly things and then hits the upright. And you're just like, oh my goodness. Yeah. Like, how much further? And we're thinking, okay, Mitch, did you bring Cody Parkey back with you? The double doink? Can we get the extra set of that and get it the doink back in the other way, maybe?
And he just got paid. That's never good. The last time Boswell got paid was when he fell apart mentally back in, 2018? So, yeah, the fact that he just got paid again and had that huge doink, I was like, oh, no, dude, we can't. TJ's hurting. Now we got Boswell in the hole. Something needs to change here quick. And thankfully, we know how the game concluded.
Yeah, that's exactly how it ends up concluding. Is Arthur Millette forces a fumble on the next series of Joe Burrow.
Unsung hero,
yes.
Millette.
Yes, and they're forced to punt. And Huber bangs off a 50-yard punt somehow, even with the backup long snapper. And 56 seconds, you're just kind of like, okay, are we all going to do the kiss your sister tie deal? And I thought that's where we were all headed.
My buddy goes, would you take a tie right now, Flash? I was like, I can't answer that because I need to have the choice. I need to see if we can do it first. If I have to accept the tie, yeah, I'll take it, obviously. But we have a chance here. I physically couldn't think of an answer. I was like, I don't want to say yes. I don't want to say no because I thought we lost like 4 different times. So, yeah, a tie's better than a loss, I guess.
Yeah.
But let's see if we can win it first.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's Rodrigo Blankenship or some of the other kickers. Special teams wins games, and you just saw the field goal mess. And Chicago, man, waterlogged field. They were doing the slip and slides out there.
Yeah.
That was pretty crazy. But, yeah, Boswell finally gets into position. I mean, Trubisky had one deep pass, 26 yards. Well, he gets one to Deontay Johnson. And no huddle gets one out to Pat Freiermuth on the offside play that you were talking about. That picks up a giant chunk of yards. They're down to 25 seconds. And because of the penalty, that helps aid you in your clock management as well. Incomplete pass to Deontay Johnson, short middle to Freiermuth again for 10 yards. 9 seconds, spikes the ball. They have 8 seconds, 2nd and 10. And I think maybe trying to get maybe a little bit extra or a little bit better at positioning with Chase Claypool or burn a little extra, but 3 seconds exactly. Bang, bang, and right out. And
he was for sure. I know a
Yeah.
lot of people were pulling their hair out as this was a hot topic of conversation amongst me and my friends and my family, was the idea to run a play. Everybody I was with said there's no way they're running a play. I said I would run a play, and everybody got mad at me. And then here comes Mitch in the offense, and I'm sitting there like with this shit-eating grin, like, yep, they're running a play. And
Yeah.
the only reason I said that was because I feel like I'm going to take it back to the Zach Taylor Wilcox conversation. Now I'm going to do Tomlin and Mitch. I think Tomlin grabbed Mitch by the face mask and said, listen, 1, 2, 3, boom. We're going to call a speed out for Claypool. If it's there, throw it. If it's not there, throw it out of bounds. Like that's it. It's a one read, 3 seconds. And when they snapped the ball with 8 seconds left, it looked like the Bengals were in cover 2, which means the cornerback on the outside doesn't like move much. He kind of just stands there and waits in the area of where the ball is snapped. It's called the flat. It's within like 1 to 5 to 8-ish yards of the line of scrimmage. That cornerback did not move. He was prepared for the out route. Mitch saw that, threw it out of bounds. So I thought it was no harm, no foul. You know, I guess you can argue. My dad said this to me after the game. He called me. He was like, yeah, but what if the ball gets tipped? What if it's snapped over Mitch's head? I said, that's fair. They didn't account for that. But just to argue why they ran the play, I think it's because it was all talked about pre-snap. It was, hey, if Chase is wide the heck open, throw it to him. If he's not, get that ball out of bounds. Let's kick it and get out of here.
He had some amazing hands yesterday. Like
Claypool?
Yeah.
Yeah,
His-
he impressed me.
His catch radius and everything he did. He looked like a dude, and I'm very, very pleased with his play. Defensive, of course, Boswell ends up making this one from what, 53, 55, 50, 53 officially. So
Nice.
yeah, Steelers end up with the victory. You got a couple idiots. Like I wasn't there. I wasn't gonna go start like picking fights with Bengals fans, but there was a guy in a Lev Bell jersey and just saying like, oh, whatever, back to Pittsburgh and whatever. And I'm like, come on, dude, like really? Like, come on. Maybe a little too much to drink there. And it was
it's hard to take
good
victory
times.
laps when it takes all of overtime for your team to win.
When neither team really wanted it that badly, it felt like. And we'll see what happens with TJ Watt. See if we got any there's optimism today in Pittsburgh that outside linebacker reigning defensive player of the year TJ Watt did not experience a full pec tear and will be able to return after sitting a month or so per league source, still awaiting word from the team. And that comes
Who is that?
That is Jonathan Jones, who is an NFL insider for CBS. It's CBS Sports.
You have legs.
Yes.
That's good stuff.
Yes.
That's breaking news on the show.
So, yeah, breaking news on the show, and we'll eventually shut up and put a bow on this one because we're up against it. But just to look ahead at the schedule and look at the defense, will they get any more reinforcements for TJ Watt? What kind of pressure? We don't know the extent of an injury to Mac Jones. Patriots coming off a pretty Patriots on the road again, 2 in a row, and they were just down in Miami. So, you know, this could be in the Steelers' favor, even though the offense was stinky. As long as they don't make a ton of mistakes, we don't have like anybody throwing interceptions or fumbling the ball. Like Deontay Johnson nearly lost the one too. So it's not all just Mitch there. I don't want to make it sound like it's all on him. But then you go to Thursday night, and the Browns were able to eke out a victory because the Panthers didn't get their act together until like about the fourth quarter themselves. And now the Browns have a kicker finally. It's taken them a very long time, and that's been one of the missing ingredients for them for many, many, many years. They drafted Cade York out of LSU, and he had like a 56 yarder for the win yesterday as well. So that'll be Thursday night. I think that's still a winnable matchup, minus TJ Watt or not. You're going to have a short week. You just hope you don't have any more major injuries. I think the Steelers could sustain if they don't have Levi Wallace for a game. They may even be able to sustain Najee because Najee 23 yards is replaceable right now. You know what I mean? And
He might not come back.
I don't know. I don't know. It's just because he was out so much with training camp, so I don't want to
I thought he
speculate too
came
much.
back into the game.
Najee, I don't recall
No, no,
him
no,
coming
no,
back.
Levi.
Oh, Levi. No, I don't think Levi came back either. He was held out from like second quarter, second half, or
Oh,
something
because
like
they're not
that.
talking about him at all. Like
No,
Tomlin's
no.
not. No one's
said-
mentioned his like injury.
They said ankle. I think Tomlin said ankle. Watt was upper body injury. It sounded like a hockey thing. And,
Yeah.
you know, they always say upper body and lower body. They never tell you what in hockey because the guys will just go after it. So,
Yeah.
And Najee, I think like a Jalen Warren, McFarland, Snell, some type of combo like that, I think it still could be effective enough. Like they have Cam Sutton, they have Arthur Millette, they have they could still kind of do the things that they want to do. You still got Keller Witherspoon, who's a dude on the other side. I was watching him ready to jump routes all day yesterday too. I mean, he was feisty. You still got Terrell Edmonds, Trey Norwood, so they're still able to do a lot of things with the safeties. I think Spillane came off at some point too. Got dinged, loss of breath, whatever. Defensive line, I think, is pretty deep enough. So even without TJ Watt, weathering the storm against like the Patriots, I don't think it's going to be a high-powered offense. The Cleveland Browns, which Jacoby Brissett might not be, you're going to have to stop the run. That's going to be the biggest thing there. And then the New York Jets, whether it's Zach Wilson or Joe Flacco. I mean, Joe Flacco they did not have a good outing yesterday. So
I dare Joe Flacco to step foot into Heinz Field again, dude. I'll be there for that game. One final you Flacco game would just be the perfect way to start the new era of Ben Roethlisberger-less Steelers. One last game, I can send that beautiful bitch off to retirement with his Neanderthal eyebrows and his $200 million contract he got because of Ray Lewis and Ed Reed and defensive pass interference. C'est la vie. Please, I hope he starts for the Jets.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you, I'm right there. I think one of the last games he played, I just remember TJ chasing him down from behind. Remember they let the clock kept running. And
I think that was the DMR
game
patch game. I remember distinctly the DMR patch on TJ's jersey when he strip sacked Flacco to conclude that game. I remember it pretty vividly.
So if this isn't too serious, you go week 5 to Buffalo, host the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, go to Miami, go to Philadelphia before a bye week. That's a rocky road. But if somehow, some way the Steelers can eke out victories and play close to the vest, like we thought it might be, can Trubisky just be the game manager type? This is what I said. Maybe one touchdown pass here or there. He's not a 400-yard passer, 3-4 touchdown pass type guy. Might not need it against these early opponents. And then you get TJ Watt back, and knock on wood, everything else is, copacetic. They've got a chance. They really do have a chance in here. And it definitely helps that they have one in the win column in the AFC North right now. And if they could get 2 with Cleveland, I mean, they could be really stinky, but that's still going to put them ahead in tiebreakers. Otherwise, I mean, the Bengals only won 10 games in the regular season and won the division last year. We said it would be the first to 10.
Yeah.
Could be the same way again this time. Very much so. I don't know if they're going to run away with it. It's not to say that the Bengals look like a bad team. Joe Burrow was off his game. I think the Steelers defense was really good. I think the Bengals defense was really good too. So it's wait and see. And let's move forward. You never know. Mitch could have a big game next week against the Patriots. You just never, ever know. I just know that maybe a sigh of relief that not only not season ending for reigning defensive player of the year with that injury, but also like a good chance he could be back sooner than later. That bodes well for the Steelers because a lot of people are already thinking season over. And I'm like, well, season got a lot harder, but maybe not season over.
I know, dude. I deal with it too. My good buddy who was the host yesterday was texting me last night, like, season's over, dude. And I know he's partially kidding, but he's very much of the camp that thinks TJ's done for the year. And I've been trying to tell him, without arguing, just trying to suggest, and there's reason to be positive. There's a chance we get him back, even if it's by week 8 or week 9. Like we already said, that there's a chance we're like 4-4, 5-3 when he gets back. That's a good record to have TJ Watt come back into. And if he can get back sooner than that, like you said, that tweet you just read off from Jones said, you're speculating a month at this point without learning anything new. Well, that means a month from now, we could be anywhere from 4-0 to 3-2. And that's a lot of football left for TJ to come back to. I don't want to rush him back, but as soon as he's ready, get him out there, man. And like you, I'm very relieved and happy to hear that he may not be done for the year because I think this team's got a shot. I think with this defense and the offense still figuring itself out with room for improvement. This offense has a recipe that, when mixed properly together, it can give you a winning football team.
Yeah, and don't sleep on Malik Reed. He's 13 games started in each of the previous 2 seasons with the Denver Broncos, 13 sacks overall in those 26 appearances. Also has, let's say, about a baker's dozen tackles for loss and 25 quarterback hits over that time. He's going to prove to be very important. And when you already got Ogunjobi, Hayward, and then like Alu, Leal, Chris Wormley, and these dudes are just getting in there now, and they're creating pressure. And you saw what they helped do.
Loudermilk wasn't active because we got so many guys.
I know, and Highsmith had such a game. Highsmith can pick up and be pretty much a force too. Reed could easily slip in there. He's a wily veteran.
I think Reed will get. I think Reed will get better too. I think I saw some people talking about his low impact yesterday, and I thought, dude, we just got him on like Tuesday. Let him get the defense down. Let him get comfortable. I think Malik Reed is going to be a player for us too.
Absolutely. Well, that's going to do it for us. There's not any other nook or cranny. We probably still missed something because, as Bill Hillgrove said, it would take an hour to explain, and we already took much longer than that. So we appreciate you, especially we're down to the 1%ers now that are still hanging in there. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Head on over to No House Advantage, the sponsor or official sponsor of the Steel City Underground podcast. And this is our post game, a pregame coming later this week, maybe 2. I don't know. I'm feeling a little fiery, man. Got the content, the hashtag content, my hashtag. I don't know where it's at around here. I was going to pull up the McDonald's. Possibly you. I sent it to you. I sent you the text. I had the McDonald's breakfast this morning, and they got the two sausage biscuits for $2.50. I'm a menu hack guy. I'm doing it with the mobile app. I'm not doing the DoorDash thing. But now that they're open inside, it's like I don't wait in the drive-through lines either, and that stuff is usually out. 2 for $2.50 on the sausage biscuit, and the $1 any size coffee. $3.50 for a breakfast to go. I know it's not the best thing for my health, man, but it's cheap and it tastes good. So that's what I was doing this morning.
Convenience is top notch.
I know. I can't help it. I probably have like 10,000 McDonald's rewards points at this point now too. So I got to get the kid a free Happy Meal or 2. They got rid of the Thor toys. The Thor toys were really cool. They went on to like these Pokemon trading cards, and they're garbage. I'm not into that. I'm sorry.
It's all good, man. I remember that they had Pokemon toys that were cool when I was a kid. Pokemon's really gone downhill since circa 2008.
Burger King, they had the actual balls that you captured the Pokemon with.
That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, the gold plate thing inside. I had like 5 of those.
Yeah. That's funny. That's really funny. Somebody I knew used to work at Burger King at that point in time and used to get it all for like one of the cousins that's much younger. So they were
that's
into
nice.
that.
That's sweet.
Yeah, it's so cool. Somebody did that for me too. They had 101 Dalmatians, the movie tie-in with McDonald's Happy Meals. They had 101 different of the Dalmatian toys. They were all unique. And I remember I must have had like 20 some of them. They were all different. You would get doubles still somehow, but it was very rare.
That's surprisingly high effort from McDonald's on a Happy Meal toy.
That's crazy. I know it's quality stuff, man. It's quality stuff. I know people don't like the McDonald's talk early, so I'll do it lit. So a little bit of entertainment at the end here. Folks, that'll do it for us. My name is Joe. His name is Zach. Until next time. Man, I still can't recover from this.
Still tired.
Steelers 23-20 over the Bengals, 1-0 to start the season. We're happy campers from that aspect. We'll have the pregame previews coming later this week. Check out steelcityunderground.com for all of our other coverage. And until next time, we encourage everyone out there to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.